You know what, Johnny? You're absolutely right. They are dominating. Why don't we jump into this? Let's talk about our first topic. Flagstaff softball has been on an absolute tear over the past month. Johnny, talk to me about what has been the key to the success of the Eagles so far this season.
Well, Sean, everything is going right for the Flagstaff softball Eagles in their 4-game winning streak in conference play and 6-game winning streak overall. The pitching is led by senior McKenna Snodgrass, who pitched 6 innings of shutout softball against Mojave last Thursday, with 8 strikeouts. Snodgrass did not stop there, as she pitched just 2 days later in a rematch against the Thunderbirds, pitching a complete game and only giving up 3 earned runs. She also added 2 hits and 1 RBI in the 9-3 win. The Eagles are averaging over 8 runs a game during their 4-game win streak in conference play and over 9 runs a game in their 6-game win streak overall. The Eagles will need to keep their hot streak going as they continue against conference opponents, including Bradshaw Mountain, Mingus Union, and Coconino, all teams ahead of the Eagles in the standings. Should this Eagles squad play the game as they have, they definitely could look like a dangerous team down the stretch going into the playoffs. Sean?
Johnny, you are absolutely right. The Eagles definitely look to be a dangerous team come playoff time. Let's talk about Coconino softball. The Panthers have had a very strong season so far, as they're currently sporting a pretty solid 10-4 record with 5-2 record in conference play, which is also pretty good. They dispatched Prescott in back-to-back games by a combined score of 27-7, which sounds more like a football blowout than a combined baseball score. They also defeated Mojave 11-4 before losing 3-2 against Mingus Union. They are led by star seniors Caitlin Snowpeck, who has a .600 average with 21 RBIs, and Ashlyn Hernandez, who has a .455 average with 18 RBIs. This is an absolutely loaded team, so expect this team to be a threat heading down the stretch of conference play. They had their rematch with Mingus Union at home last night, but unfortunately, because we tape on Wednesdays, we do not have the stats for that game. Johnny, the Flagstaff High School baseball team is on a 3-game losing streak to both Mojave and Lee Williams, defeating them. Johnny, what can they do to stop the bleeding during this skid?
Solid pitching and offense wins ball games, Sean, and when the Eagles have been at their best this season, they have relied on an explosive offense and just enough pitching to collect the W. In the batter's box, Flagstaff's offense has been solid. The Eagles have scored 20 runs during their 3-game losing streak, led by junior Luke Canizales and sophomore Silas Clary. Canizales is on a 5-game hitting streak and is hitting .550, collecting 5 RBI and swiping 6 bags during that span. His overall batting average of .436 sits at 8th in the conference. Additionally, Clary has collected at least 1 hit in all 16 games he has played this season, and is batting .447 on the season overall, 7th in the conference. This dynamic duo gives this Eagles squad a consistent offensive presence, while also providing a balance of veteran experience and youth to the team. Over their last 3 games, though, Eagles pitching has allowed 26 runs, with half of those runs coming in a 13-12 extra inning loss to Lee Williams. Defensively, it has also been a struggle, as they have committed 8 errors during their 3-game losing streak, including 3 in that loss to Lee Williams, in which 4 of the 13 runs giving up were unearned, costing them a pivotal ball game in conference play. We all know this Eagles team will bring the offense. Should this team find more consistency like they did earlier in the season and clean up their glove work on top of that, this team could become a force and make a final push come playoff time.
You know what, Johnny? Let us hope that they can actually find that consistency. Why don't we talk about Coconino baseball for real quick? This team has struggled this season, especially in conference play, posting a 2-5 record. Their 2 wins have come against last place Mojave. While this season has unfortunately been a hard one, a bright spot for their students and fans is the tandem of Jordan Lucero, who has a .281 average and 13 RBIs, and Ty Walters, who has a .357 average with 10 RBIs. While the season hasn't been one that Coconino has hoped for, hopefully these two can put on a show for the folks attending each game. Johnny, the NAU spring football game is coming up. It will be at April 26th at 6 o'clock p.m. at the J. Lawrence Walkup Skydome. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Johnny, what can we anticipate from this year's edition of the NAU spring football game?
It is an exciting time for NAU football, Sean, as newly committed recruits, returning veterans, and a fresh coaching staff give students, fans, and alumni alike hope for a bounce-back year. For the upcoming spring game, I am anticipating to see how the new-look Jacks mesh into a coherent unit. With the departure of star receiver Emmanuel Butler, Brandon Porter and Chancellor Brewington will be anticipated to pick up the workload. Redshirt freshman Porter averaged almost 12 yards per catch last season and finished with 325 yards receiving. Sophomore Brewington, meanwhile, averaged almost 11 yards per catch last season with 246 yards overall. While Butler scored 7 touchdowns last season for the Jacks, Porter and Brewington each only had 1 receiving touchdown. It will be interesting to see them get more playing time and continue to develop and hone their skills. It will also be interesting to see how the passing game, in particular Case Cookus, develops under the new coaching regime. The redshirt senior has had an up-and-down career as a lumberjack. In 2015, he threw for over 3,100 yards and 37 touchdowns and earned the Big Sky Freshman of the Year honors. In 2017, he threw for over 3,400 yards and 22 touchdowns. Both of these fantastic and explosive seasons also earned him a spot on the All-Big Sky first team. His 2016 and 2018 years, however, were not as successful, as he combined to play only 6 games during those campaigns because of shoulder and collarbone injuries. This spring game will allow us to gauge how Cookus looks coming back from injury, if he can stay healthy, and see how he meshes under the new coaching staff led by head coach Chris Ball, who comes from a very offense-savvy American Athletic Conference in the FBS.
Johnny, that was fantastic analysis. I, too, am looking forward to see how these playmakers help settle into the new roles from former Memphis coach Chris Ball. Last year, I watched every single game in person at the Skydome, and one thing I noticed that led to their very disappointing 4-6 record was a very battered and inconsistent backfield. Corey Young and Joe Logan, which were their 2 leading rushers last season, led the team rushing, but they didn't play every single game. And here's an interesting stat. 7 players totaled more than 100 yards combined for the season, but no one, and I repeat, no one had more than 500 yards rushing. I'm looking at junior running back Nate Stinson, who missed 7 games last season to provide explosiveness and quickness this season. The spring football game will allow us to see the progress he has made since his unfortunate injury. Let's talk about NAU tennis. Wow, what a team this is. They have combined to start in conference play at 10-1. The NAU women's team has started well in conference play themselves, posting a 3-1 record. They have a critical weekend upcoming as they take on Southern Utah and Weber State home. Johnny, what have you seen so far from this team heading into the big matchups this weekend?
NAU women's tennis has been on fire these past few matches, Sean, as they just rolled to their first pair of shutout victories of the season against Portland State and UTEP. The Lumberjacks made quick work of the Vikings in both singles and doubles action, led by junior Chiara Tomasetti. Both shutout victories vaulted Tomasetti back into the Oracle ITA Women's Tennis National Ranking, coming in at 118th nationally among Division I teams. She has ranked as high as 75th overall this season as well. This Lumberjacks team will lean on her as conference play continues. She leads the Big Sky Conference in #1 singles match wins with 32, along with senior Hanukkah Lodovics, who was an all-Big Sky first team in both single and doubles last season. Both players provide a fantastic combination of skill and leadership to help mentor the younger players on the roster. This team has had great talent and momentum on their side, and with a 3-game winning streak under their belts, along with 5 of their last 7 matches at home, where the Lumberjacks currently have a 5-1 record, this team could prove to be a force come April 25th during the Big Sky Conference Tournament. Sean?
Johnny, absolutely. Speaking of on fire, how about the NAU men's tennis team in the Big Sky Conference? You want to know something, Johnny? They have not yet lost in conference play. They have a 7-0 record and show no signs whatsoever of letting up. There are many tremendous players on this squad, such as Tim Handel, who has a 7-1 record overall in singles on the season. Their next two opponents are Weber State and Eastern Washington. Weber State is 2-5 in conference play, and Eastern Washington is 1-4 in conference play. That is a combined 25% in conference play between the two teams. So both of them are struggling. So this weekend, expect the machine to keep on chugging as they look to improve to 9-0 in conference play.